So MAT.
MAT.
What are your thoughts on it?
Well, it's been a real struggle for me, I guess I could say. I mean, I've been on Suboxone for like 5 years or more. When I got on it initially, it was like 2013, and initially it was meant to be a long-term maintenance drug when they created it. But over time, doctors started like changing their perspective on this shouldn't be a long-term maintenance drug. It should be a drug to quickly wean people
Off of heroin.
Right. Where methadone obviously was always meant to be kind of a maintenance drug, as far as I know. I shouldn't really talk about methadone because I don't use it or haven't done it. But anyway, so yeah, and everyone told me, if you get on that, obviously you're never going to get prescribed pain pills again, which is probably kind of a good thing, right? And I think that's one of the biggest excuses for not getting on it. I know a lot of people say, like, if you get on it, you're just looking to get high off of illegal medicine. But I would say if you don't get on it, maybe you're looking to get high off of an illegal substance, right? Because Suboxone will ruin that experience for you. Which I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, I've been one of those people who have always, not that I've ever been like, people shouldn't use it, but I've been pretty much, like, no, I'm not getting on that. I'm not doing that.
It's definitely a personal decision, and I feel like I jumped into it very quickly as like a need something now solution. Because I didn't do any research on it. I just went into Jacasa out in Albion. I don't know if you've ever heard of them.
I have not.
They're also in Batavia. But I went there, and they were like, you seem to be a really good candidate for MAT and the Suboxone program. And I knew that I wouldn't have been able to just go there and do groups and quit at that time. Like, I thought I was ready to quit, but
Doing dope, you're speaking of, right?
Yes,
okay.
Yeah, like dope. And I mean, at that time, it was a lot more of like the OCs and stuff like that was all pretty readily available on the streets still. But anyway, so I jumped right on it. I guess she was my fiance at the time, was just kind of like, you need to go get help or else I'm leaving you, which I kind of wish you would have. But anyway, I did. I got on it because, I was like breaking into everyone's house that I knew and like stealing money and any drugs they had lying around if they had any. So it was definitely time to get help at that point. So that seemed easy. I still needed to have a job because I, lived on my own and everything like that. So, yeah, that's why I did it initially. And at first it was like, okay, I'm going to be on this for a year and then I'll be off of it. And then, it was like, okay, I'm going to be on this the rest of my life. I pretty quickly came to that, like, I was okay with it. You know what I mean? Like a heart medicine, that was kind of my opinion. But then I got to a point in my life where it really wasn't, like, Suboxone wasn't conducive to the lifestyle I wanted to live. Like, I had some job offers on the table for, like, travel and things like that. And it's like, I can't see a doctor every month and try to travel for work.
If you're going to be all over the place, yeah.
Right. Strangely, it's one of my, dreams to travel for work. It's a weird dream, but it was my
No, I can see that. That would be nice.
Yeah, it seemed like it would be cool. But anyway, so I decided to try and get off it. I got down to like 2 milligrams a day or 1 milligram a day. And I couldn't make that like jump to get off, like to totally stop.
Why do you think that is? Do you think, was it just scared or like the kind of, I don't want to be without anything? Or was it
that was
the
what
physical, actual, like, do you feel like you would have had withdrawals?
The withdrawals would have been mild, I know that.
Okay.
They would have been there, but I probably could have overcome them had I wanted to. There's a lot of other shit going on in my life at the time, too. So I ended up, Jacasa was like, you got to make a choice. You either come off it or you would transfer you to a doctor. So I transferred out to a doctor who then put me like back up to 8 milligrams because she wanted to make money, obviously.
Yeah, naturally.
So I did that, and then she was like, I got with her about like, coming off of it, and she was like, I'll just let you do it. I'll keep writing you scripts for 8 milligrams a month, and you do it yourself. I was like, oh,
Jesus Christ.
And at the time, surprisingly, I thought that was a great idea because the last doctor that I had like been with for Suboxone was very pushy. So I was like, I can do it at my own pace, like a drug addict trying to control his addiction, essentially, is what it was.
That always works out well for us.
Right. And I mean, I didn't do any AA at the time. I didn't do anything like that. So I was literally just seeing a doctor like 15 minutes a month. And she was like, "Are you going to AA? You going to outpatient?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm doing that.
Absolutely.
Of course, doc."
That's right. And she was like, so then one day she told me, in 3 months I'm going to be going to New Jersey, which is where she was from. And you have to find another doctor or, we'll just be done. And I was like, okay, 3 months. I'll just, taper in 3 months myself. So she kept writing me scripts for 8, and it got to a point where she was gone and I was still doing like 8 milligrams a day.
Yeah.
And then it just...
That's the classic. I love that. All right, tomorrow.
Right, procrastination.
I'm going to start weaning myself off of doing heroin so I can get off this valley withdrawals. I'm ruining my life, so I'm going to start tomorrow.
Right, exactly. And then tomorrow came finally where there was no more script. And I had taken a week off of work because I knew that, like, whether or not I had weaned, I knew I wouldn't have any left. So I took a week off from work. I was super sick for a couple of days. Actually, no, I was fine for like 3 days. There was no withdrawal whatsoever. And I was like, sweet, I made it out. I'm good. And then I got hit with such terrible withdrawal for like 3 days.
My gosh.
And by the time it was time for me to go back to work, I was sick as a dog. And I was like, I can't show up to work. At the time, I was like managing people, and people needed me to like be present and be well. So I started buying Suboxone on the street, which was stupid because like that's not any better than just buying dope, in my opinion.
That's more expensive.
Right, and it's dumb. So anyway, it got to the point where I just stopped buying Suboxone and started buying heroin, and that was my last relapse. So now that I'm like, I went back into Terrace House and went through the village, I'm looking back on it in a way like I really should have used Terrace House to like detox completely and then just been off of MAT completely. But I will say that if I had done that in Terrace House, I would have never gone to the village for the long-term treatment. I would have just transferred to an outpatient.
Right when you got out.
And I don't know that I would have really been ready for life at that point, because a lot of the time, if I didn't have my like 6 a.m. med call, I wouldn't have woken up at rehab, I mean, that's just the honest truth.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. It's funny how these things in life kind of suck. Like, you look back and being on Suboxone sucks. And kind of going and doing dope and ruining your life sucks. But I've realized, like, there's so many things like that I learned at Horizon Village that changed certain things in my personality that I needed to go through.
Oh, absolutely.
So it's almost like this strained relationship with something that you hated, and it really was a terrible fucking thing, but yet I also needed it.
Yeah.
And it's just a very bizarre thing, but kind of going back to the Suboxone thing, it is. When I was in jail, I mean, there's people, and they don't give you nothing
right
in jail.
Yeah, it's
unless you're coming off of benzos or alcohol. They don't give you nothing to help with withdrawals. And there is people, I mean, for a month that were just hurting for a month withdrawing from Suboxone and methadone, which is insane to me. But I don't think it should be. I don't think people should be on it for 5 years.
Right. And I'm not saying that the only reason people don't get on it is because they want to continue to get high with street drugs. I think there's that. Like, people have gone through where they couldn't get it anymore and had to detox off of it again, So there's definitely it. I mean, there's a ton of pros. There's, I think, a few cons. And I think this time around, so a lot of people are like, oh, you were on it for so long. What's going to be different this time? That tested question. What's new or what's different this time? But I think realistically, Horizon has a doctor who has a lot of experience with it and has a lot of experience with tapering people, from what I've been told. So there's that, and I think taking his suggestions and really taking them seriously, and like when I get to a point where he says it's time to come off of it, then it's time to come off of it, and just another big thing I think will be being in Oxford House, having
Yeah.
people around me that know what I'm going through and want to support me through that.
Well, how many milligrams Suboxone are you on a day?
I'm on 12.
Okay, so you just take 12 strip a day?
Yeah, one a day, which I think is preferable because last time I did it, I was doing like 2 4s, once in the morning, once in the evening.
Okay.
And it kind of continued to develop the need for like taking doses throughout the day. So, I think doing 12, I want to so I have an appointment on the 4th to talk to the doctor and like try to I want to make a plan at least to come off it. If he says,
taper. Yeah.
we'll start the taper in 6 months, fine. But I want to know like, when can I taper? When does he think I'll be ready? Being that I've, already been on it again for almost 6 months now.
6 months, because you're on it for a few years, you said, right? And then
Yeah, prior to
that doctor left.
Right.
And then you got dope, and that's what ended you up in
Right.
Terrace House.
So I've been
and
back
then
on it, yeah.
at HV. What did you go to jail?
No, I did not.
So do you put yourself in Terrace House?
Yeah, I mean, did I really like volunteer? No, but I wasn't.
You weren't all excited?
Right, I wasn't compelled by the law.
Okay. So you kind of let's put a pin in this.
All right.
And let's step back, and I want like your story here with how you first got to the point where you started taking Suboxone. So your first usage, you said, was
right.
Pills?
Yeah. So let's rewind to like alcohol and marijuana.
Okay.
Because when I moved out of my parents' house at age 17, I had grown up in a really strict household. Never drank before, never smoked, never did anything, because all that stuff was kind of frowned upon. And to be honest, I mean, I realistically frowned upon it myself, So I moved out. I was pretty salty at my parents, had a pretty big resentment there, and all my friends, because I was playing in a couple bands like in high school, so all my friends drank. And one night I was just like, yeah, let me try that.
And how old were you?
17.
17. Okay.
So I drank. And it was amazing. I loved it. And then I was introduced to marijuana through a friend of mine who like worked the same place I worked, and I loved that as well. Like they were both kind of a dream come true for me, So then I, moved back in with my parents. At that time, I was living in Nova Scotia all on my own. My parents moved back here. I moved back in with them. I was clean for a little while, and then I ended up having a back surgery, where I I had spinal meningitis and had about 3 back surgeries in the span of like 4 months or something. But,
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, so, and at that time, I mean, this was when I was 20 years old, so what was that like? I'm not going to do the math, but anyway. A while ago when they were just kind of passing out pills to people, nobody
my gosh, that's crazy, yeah.
Yeah, nobody knew what they were really. I mean, I'm sure the doctors knew what they were, but I was told in the hospital, because my dad asked the doctor, like, is he going to become addicted to these? I know they're addictive. And he's like, no. He would have to take them, steadily for 3 months in order to become addictive, which is completely untrue.
I know. That's crazy.
So anyway, that's when I got hooked on them. I mean, when I was in the hospital, so they would, like, give me the pills throughout the day or whatever, but I never got high off it because they were giving me the recommended dose. They did, however, like to change my bandages or whatever, they would like give me a shot through my IV of Dilaudid. And I loved it. I would ask them to do it every time.
Yeah.
Like, can you please change my bandages so I can get high? So anyway, when I got out, I had, my own script or whatever. It was a massive script of Percocet. And one day I was like, man, I really got a headache. And I took 4 instead of 2, because like with Tylenol you do that all the time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I really got to knock this headache out. I mean, I do it anyway. So I did that, and I remember specifically feeling that feeling for the first time and like relating it to the feeling in the hospital when they would shoot me with Dilaudid. And I was just like, this is what I need.
This is awesome.
Yeah, like match made in heaven. I didn't need anyone ever again.
It's nuts, yeah.
So anyway, that's what got me on pills, and I ended up losing my job because like I got to a point where I realized I couldn't stop and like got so stressed out about it. Didn't know who to turn to, because at the time like nobody really knew about that stuff. Recovery was not in the forefront. Like of anyone's mind at the time.
So, what year would this be about?
Let's see, it would have been about 12 years ago. So, like, what is that, 2005?
Roughly, yeah.
Roughly.
Yeah, whatever. We're not mathematicians here.
Yeah, exactly. We can't do simple subtraction.
19 minus 12. Son of a bitch. You stumped me.
So, yeah, I ended up just going to my parents' house and, like, telling them, just, like, dumping this on them. Because, I mean, all my life I lied to my parents. I think maybe everybody does. And so I went to them and I was like, Mom, I don't know how to stop this. I have to take them every day or else I'm ridiculously sick. I was buying them off the street at that time, obviously. And so they sent me to Chicago, or Rockford, Illinois, to a program called Reformers Unanimous, which is like a really bad play on Alcoholics Anonymous, obviously.
Reformers Unanimous.
Yeah, and I mean, at the time, like, that was like this great program that was faith-based, obviously. And so I went through that. I was there about 6 months. I decided I wanted to leave because it was like a working program. I left. They said, you're not ready. God hasn't told us you're ready yet. And I was like, okay, cool. And I left. And then within probably a month or so, I had relapsed. Because I just went right back to the same people. Went right back to
change nothing.
Yeah, changed nothing at all. Got worse, actually. Started dating a stripper. She paid my bills, got me drugs. It was a great summer. That was a real shining beacon.
Highlight of my life.
So then I ended up trying to go to school in Florida. It was a Christian school. So I was like, I'll get away again,
What school is that?
Pensacola Christian College.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I go there. My first semester's fine. I come home on Christmas break. Everything was cool. This is the whole time I hadn't used. So then I went back and ended up like trying to rob the like pharmacy on campus. Like the clinic on campus would get deliveries from a pharmacy. So I knew when the guy would come and drop them off. So I robbed him. And like I got
Were you
all
successful at it?
Yeah, I got.
Did it get caught?
At first, yeah.
Okay.
I got it all back to my room. It's like penicillin and like I think one prescription for tramadol, and I was like, score, worth it. And then the next day, like I got caught. They called, the cops in, and I had this like big meeting with them. I admitted to everything I did, which was probably stupid.
Yeah, you don't ever do that.
Anyway, I'm probably
even if they have you on camera. Look that's you. No, it's not. That's not me.
I mean, I wasn't a criminal, so anyway. I mean, I wasn't like a whatever. So my parents wouldn't let me come back here, to live with them because they had had enough at that point, which I don't blame them. So I moved to Georgia with a friend who I played in bands with a lot, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm in Georgia. Let's start a band again." And
so you got kicked out of Pensacola?
Yeah, obviously they kicked me out for that. They were like, "You got to leave, resign, please." And I was like, "Okay." So there were no charges that I'm aware of filed. They just kicked me off campus because they weren't like, I guess they didn't press charges. Probably because of the publicity thing.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So I was in Georgia. I was there. I wasn't using again for the most part. I was drinking, so maybe I was using a little bit.
Well, that's it. Nothing else. Just drinking. Okay.
Right. And then I started working at Target. We were playing in the band. Here and there, I would like do some hydros or Percocet if somebody handed them to me. Smoked a little weed again if somebody just had it. Like I didn't have any sources there. So one night we played a show down at the 5 spot in Atlanta, which is a pretty cool scene for music, but mostly for like jazz music and rap music, which we were neither. So we went and played this like terrible show at a jazz club, and nobody liked us because we weren't pretentious and playing jazz. And this guy was there who ended up selling us methamphetamine, which is the only time I've ever done it in my life, other than like if it was in ecstasy. And we did it for like 4th of July weekend. I literally drove me insane for an entire year.
For a whole year?
Yeah, like I thought that I was like Spider-Man. I thought that anything I was watching on the TV was like about my life. It was crazy.
Jesus.
So
yeah, I've never done the meth.
Yeah, don't. It's crazy. My roommate begged my parents to take me back in because he couldn't stand living with me
Oh
anymore,
my gosh,
'cause
I can only imagine. Yeah.
I was insane, literally.
What a burden.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't paying rent anymore because I lost my job because they were like, what the fuck is wrong with you, you know? So finally, my parents came home. They took me in. For about a year, I stayed clean, living at their house. I finally got a job working at Walmart. I met, while I was there working at Walmart, one of my old dealers after about a year of being clean and got back on pills and stuff. And that was the first time I ever took Suboxone. He gave me one. Just like because we, just kind of reunited. And he was like, hey, I got this.
Look what I got.
Try it out.
It's weird how, kind of like a side note, it's weird how addiction, because I was the same way too. Like, I did pills here and there. Like, I'd go a month straight, maybe taking a couple every day because I came across a lot of them for cheap. And then I'd stop. Like, I'd be fine.
Yeah.
That'd be fine just having some beers and smoking pot here and there. And somewhere along the line of life, I don't know what it is, this is where I feel like the whole escapism from pain or guilt or whatever it is comes into play. Like, somewhere along the line, like when I hurt my back and got pills, started getting them off the streets.
Right.
I had so much guilt and shame for my failed divorce. And I think that was the first time, like, those pills that made me feel like not guilty or shameful about it anymore. And I think that's where the addiction really came in. I've never had withdrawals from pills or anything else. So I feel like there's always something to go, because I hear it all the time where people were doing their drug of choice, like heroin or, pills led to heroin, but I was doing pills 10 years ago here and there with no problem. So something mentally along the line doesn't line up, Yeah. There's some change where all of a sudden now I'm breaking into fucking houses so I can get dope.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree with you. Like, having that allowance to do it is kind of like, okay, I'm not really doing anything wrong anymore. For me too, I think it was linked a lot to like failure when I wasn't feeling like that good feeling of success. It was like, oh, I know how to feel that automatically and feel it times 1,000.
Yeah.
So there was that for me too. So anyway, it was at that point that I met my soon-to-be ex-wife. We used together a lot. And then...
So she used also?
Yeah.
Okay. That's how you met her, from using? Were you both using when you met each other? Not
necessarily when we met... Well, I mean, we were both using when we met each other, but that wasn't like how we met.
Okay.
We just were like in the same scene of like partiers.
Okay.
So then, fast forward to 2013, that's when I got into Jacasa and got on Suboxone.
All right.
Yeah. It's a long story, but that's it.
That's crazy. I want to stick with your Spider-Man thing. No,
okay, yeah, let's go into that.
Fucking meth, man. I've never heard any good things come about smoking meth.
Yeah, apparently it's called psychosis.
Yeah.
Which I didn't, at least there's a word for
it.
The
paranoia. I mean, oh my gosh, it stuff's crazy. I never was into the stimulants.
Me neither, at all. Like, when I would do cocaine, I would feel the same way. Like, just totally paranoid, way too high. You know what I mean? Like, couldn't come down and fall asleep and let it wear off.
Which I hated.
Yeah, I didn't like that either. So,
I mean, I did coke. Coke was probably the one I did the most out of the stimulants.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I smoked crack once and never did meth. But I almost lost my mind. Not literally. I didn't have a psychosis smoking crack, but I almost just lost it because I was so fucking hyper. I was like, this is so annoying. I can't stand this.
Yeah, so, aside from MAT, I want to know what your thoughts are on, like, maybe medical marijuana and then also maybe CBD.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of anything that anybody can do that can help them from destroying their existence from drugs.
Okay.
So if smoking cannabis helps you,
right,
not go back and ever do dope, I'm fine with that. I think when it becomes an issue is when you're just replacing. Like, I feel like I could go back and smoke cannabis.
Okay.
And cannabis, when I would get high off cannabis, I would never ever want to do any other drugs. I usually would stop drinking. I would never,
Really?
I never once did I get high on pot and like, oh, I need dope.
Right.
Like, on the contrary, it was the exact opposite. I'd want dope, I'd smoke some pot, and I'd be like, what am I doing? This is so stupid that I
Really?
feel like I need to go run and grab this thing. So pot made me more aware in that sense. But the only reason I don't want to ever go back to smoking cannabis is because I don't think I can do it without going back to smoking it every day.
Right.
You know, when I wake up, I used to get up and read with my coffee and get high. I used to love that. But I don't think I can go back to doing it every day. And I really love being sober now, how clearly I'm thinking
Yeah.
in my mind. But again, if somebody can use that in a responsible way, just like Suboxone, just like method, I mean, whatever it is, and not abuse it,
Right.
I'm all for it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm all for whatever helps people not destroy their lives. And everybody has a different opinion. I mean, physiologically, psychologically, we're all so different.
Absolutely.
So there's going to be different pathways that are going to keep us clean. The problem becomes also when being honest with oneself is the most difficult thing in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with addiction, I find I mean, when they say in the AA book, like, it's cunning, baffling, whatever that line is,
Right.
like, it's so true. It's hysterical how my mind will creep up with drinking or whatever and be like, you'll be able to have a couple beers here and there one day. I'm like, no.
Right.
What are you talking? Like, where did
Yeah.
that voice even come
Yeah.
from? Like, what is that? Like, there's no way. That's how I'll start. Yes. And it might last a year, but eventually
Right.
I'm going to be fucking drinking every day again.
I mean, it might last 5 years, you know, but eventually you're going to get back to that point where you can't pay your rent because
Yeah.
you're drunk all
I
the
mean,
time.
it's ridiculous. Eventually I'm going to drink enough, and I don't even think alcohol would destroy my life. But again, I would go back to doing it every day.
Right.
I mean, I haven't had a hangover since I was 26, and I would just drink beer, so I didn't get
Wow.
that hangover. I would just get a buzz and maintain it, and I
Okay.
did. And that's how I always justified that I don't have a drinking problem either.
Okay.
But I couldn't not drink though. I'd have to
Right.
have some beers
You
every
needed
day.
it,
Like
yeah.
I needed to do it no matter what. I'd find a reason, excuse to do it.
Yeah.
But it's just I know that one time I'm gonna have 12, 13 beers, and I'll be like, fuck it, I can go get some dope. I'll be good.
Okay.
I will learn to justify things. But again, yeah, anything that people can use to help themselves.
Sure.
One thing we haven't talked about yet that helped me when I got clean on my own was kratom.
That stuff's disgusting.
That was
The taste.
that was one. I just bought the powder stuff and went to Feel Right and bought the empty gel capsules and filled those up. So it took them like pills.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. So how many pills did you have to take when you do that?
So I'm trying to think of the strand. It was a red vein strand. I think was the ones that acted a lot like kind of helped with the opiate issues.
Right.
I don't remember exactly. I'd have to look it up. I was taking. I'm trying to think the capsule size that I was getting, but probably 4 at a time. Of the
Okay.
they were bigger capsules, almost like the size of a vitamin C, a bigger vitamin C you'd get. I don't know if that really explains anything to anybody, but I would take a bunch of those. But I remember when I was having those withdrawal symptoms, and I was shaky, I was really sweaty, I had a fever, and I took a bunch. I took about 4 or 5 of those, and now believe me, I wasn't feeling great after I did this. But after about a half hour, I mean, my shakiness was gone, my sweats were gone. I wasn't having the hot cold flashes. It helped me get through that first week. I mean, in tremendous ways of withdrawal symptoms. It really helped me.
Yeah, I tried it once, and because I've had a lot of people, tell me that
Bring it up.
this is how I, got off of heroin was by using kratom. So I bought some, and it was just the powder, and I didn't really have the thought to go and put it in pills or whatever.
Did you just make tea or something?
No, I just would take a tablespoon and mix it in hot water
And drink it?
and chug it. It was so gross.
Yeah, that would be pretty gross.
I could barely get it down, and then it didn't really help for me.
No.
I don't know why, if I was taking the wrong strand or if I just couldn't, because I would physically throw it up after taking so much of it. You know what I mean? I take a tablespoon.
You would
and
literally throw up. Oh, I mean,
yeah, it would get partway down, and I would just hurl it back up.
yeah. Well, that's probably why
Right,
you
obviously
weren't
it's-
actually consuming
I wasn't
it.
consuming it. So I mean, I've heard so many people say that this is legit what helped me get off of it. However, I've seen several, not a lot, of people who are like, well, now I'm dependent on the kratom, so.
Which is weird because I've never heard, most people I've talked to and what I've read, there's like no withdrawal symptoms from getting off of that. But you've heard otherwise, huh?
Yeah, I think just because they wanted to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, after a while, it's like, oh, this relaxes me. You know what I mean? So if it's to that point, I mean, I did some research on it, and in the Far East, like, they've been using it for thousands of years.
Yeah, it's been around
so
forever.
it's got to have something positive to
Yeah.
it. But, yeah, that's a friend of mine who introduced me to it swears by it as well. He knows several people that have gotten clean off it. And I mean, I would say that stuff, I might even, if it works for you, I would probably even put it over like trying to get on Suboxone and stuff because it's short term,
Absolutely, yeah.
I would say any of these, obviously, I think have to be like combined with AA and maybe some, counseling. Right?
Oh, absolutely.
Like, it's got to be part of a bigger
It has
program.
to be. It has to be. Because even when I was talking to my counselor about being on it, on the Suboxone, and my biggest thing has always been, I just feel like I'm cheating. Like, I'm cheating. Like, what am I going to do? So, the moments that I have, like, I'm around the house or whatever, and I have this craving come in, or just, this daydreaming about it, or whatever it is, and you kind of get that little warm feeling in your gut thinking about, oh, if I got high. So, I've been on Suboxone for a week, and I have not had any of that. That has not happened once. But my biggest thing is, and I was talking to my counselor yesterday about this, when I get off of Suboxone in 3 months or 6 months, whatever it's going to be, am I going to just pick up where I left off? Am I going to actually be able to rewire my brain on how to deal, you know what I'm saying? How to deal with when that comes up? Or am I just skipping over it and blocking it out right now until I'm off Suboxone and then, it's left off? So I'm curious as to, that's why I've been so like, I've been clean for 7 months, almost 8 months and now I'm going to try it for a little bit.
Right.
To kind of to push me a little farther down in my clean time.
Okay.
But I'm just very curious as to now when I get off of this, am I going to be able to fix things and work on things like that when it comes up? Or am I just going to pick it right up where I left off?
Yeah.
So I think it's extremely necessary. You cannot just take Suboxone and not change anything in your life, because what does that do anyway? You're not fixing anything.
Nothing.
You're taking Suboxone. That's it.
Yeah. And I've been told, I guess, too, that like it kind of will pull you like halfway through pause, so that when you get off of the Suboxone, like your pause isn't as bad, which I don't know if that's a fact or if I even like believe that.
What's pause again for our listeners?
What is it? Post-acute withdrawal symptoms, right? Sorry.
Yes, that sounds right.
I totally forgot it for a second.
I know, that's why I asked you.
I just call it pause. But anyway, yeah, I only heard that from one person, though, and it was like kind of offhandedly in a group. It was, who was it? One of the counselors at Terrace House, Mike, downstairs.
I didn't go to Terrace House.
Well, then you
So I
wouldn't
don't
know.
know who you're talking about.
Probably shouldn't be name dropping like that either, should I?
Nah, Mike, that's the first name.
Right.
That's good.
There's 1,000 Mikes.
He lives at 305 McKinley Parkway. His phone number is.
Yeah, so I don't know, like you said, I don't know if when you do get off it, are you just going to be right back where you were of like experiencing these cravings again? I think it's intended to not only for harm reduction, which, that's a big one, but also to help you develop those skills without having to stress about cravings.
And actually failing at it, yeah.
Right. So I think that's the biggest reason for being on it. I hope that Horizon doesn't want to like draw the process out. You know what I mean? Like you're saying like in 3 months or whatever it is when you get off. I'm hoping that I'm not on it for like another 5 years, obviously, but I think by then I will have, because before I wasn't developing any program. It was obviously like suggested at Jacasa, like you should probably go to AA, you should probably go to NA. And they would literally ask me every time I went if I had gone that month, and it would always be like, no, I didn't. I couldn't find one, which was a ridiculous excuse.
Yeah, because they're literally like every block.
Right, and I wasn't looking for them. That's why I couldn't find them. So now that I'm doing that, I think I have a much better chance at like coming off of it.
Absolutely, yeah.
So
But yeah, that work has to be put in. It has to be.
yeah, it's a lot of work. You can't just like check out and be like I did my first time around of like, okay, I'm just going to live my life on Suboxone,
Yeah.
which I did. I mean, I really developed a pretty good life when I was, taking Suboxone as prescribed. Like, I had a really good job. I was married. I had a couple of cars, a nice place, like an Xbox One, which was my pride and joy.
Name brand cereal.
Name brand cereal, yeah. A bunch of guitars, all of which has since been pawned to buy dope.
That's right.
Which is, you know what? Not to like go on a tangent, but trying to reestablish and like recollect those material items that I lost. For some reason, this time is kind of a really low priority on my list, which I think it should be.
Yeah.
But I mean, 5 years ago, I would have been like, I need my Xbox back. I need all
I
these
need to
guitars
get it back.
Yeah, like that's what I need to get back. But I think this time around, and Bill at Horizon was really big on kind of getting this into my head. He was like, that's not what's important. What's important is getting people back. And not even necessarily people back, but getting yourself back, like your true self. And if you can build around you a life that is better than going out and using, which theoretically should be pretty easy because using is a miserable existence.
Towards the end, absolutely.
Yes,
yeah.
when it gets to that point, it's just a miserable existence. So you just gotta, and it sounds so simple, like I make it sound so easy, but it's not. But build a life that not only are you accountable to other people, but you want these other people in your life to the point, and they want you in their life to where they help you and you help them stay sober. Like it's a crazy network. AA, I mean, it's huge.
It is. It's gigantic. And I think it is simple. But
is.
simple doesn't mean easy.
Absolutely.
And there's a huge difference. It is a very simple thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I got to make my life better than it was when I was using.
Right. But
Why?
it's not easy.
Yeah, I don't know why it's so difficult, though. Yeah. Such a simple thing, but it's so difficult to like start rewiring your brain to where you don't want to use anymore.
Yeah.
It's a lot of hard work. You have to go
That's-
in to the depths of your psyche and pull out a lot of dark shit. You
Yeah.
got to talk about a lot of dark shit, a lot of shit that makes you miserable,
Yeah.
a lot of things that most people don't like talking about.
Which is interesting that you mentioned that, because holding it inside, I think a lot of us don't realize that holding it inside is what like keeps you sick, as they say. And when you're bringing it out like in step 4 and you're writing down like all these things, and I guess step 5 too, where you're like confessing them, it's coming out and it feels shitty, and you might feel like you're becoming like a worse person or whatever for it, but you're becoming aware of it, and then you're able to like release it then. And so now it's not inside of you like holding you back from anything. Because I might, let's say, just for instance, and maybe this isn't one of my things, but maybe it is, I have a problem with like strippers, let's say, and I just really enjoy doing that, but nobody knows, right? The part where nobody knows is the part that makes it hurt me, because I'm just holding it inside and I'm like, man, I'm such a terrible person. That's not something I should really be doing all the time. You know what I mean? When I get it out and I talk to someone and they're like, yeah, that's, not great, but it's not like, doesn't make you an evil human being. You can release it, and being in AA, it's, you have just as many of those terrible things as I do. You know what I mean? And hopefully if you're my sponsor, you've already kind of let them out. So and you've experienced these things. Whereas when it's a counselor, like maybe they were in AA or maybe they are in recovery, but maybe they're not. And so it's a different kind of like therapy, I guess.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely different to have somebody who's experienced and has gone through something that they're trying to get you through, and your own experiences is a huge thing. And there's nothing against book smarts either, because there's a lot of amazing shit to learn that people can help you with. But the naming something is fucking huge.
Absolutely, yeah.
Just to say it, I've said like so many times that the first time I remember like literally saying I'm Sean and I'm an addict, and how huge that was just to say it. Like, oh my gosh, that felt great.
Yeah.
And like there's that one chapter in that Jordan Peterson book, 12 Rules of Life, that talks about being precise in your speech.
Yeah.
And he goes on to tell this, it's his kid's book. There's no such thing as dragons, it's called.
Okay.
And it's about this little boy has a dragon about the size of a cat. That's how it starts off. And he takes the dragon downstairs, and his mom's in the kitchen. Mom, I gotta look at my pet dragon. And his mom's like, there's no such thing as dragons. And the dragon gets bigger. And then the dragon eats the kid's breakfast. Mom, the dragon ate my breakfast. Honey, there's no such thing as dragons. So the dragon keeps getting bigger. So the more the mom says there's no such thing as dragons to the boy, the bigger the dragon gets. To the point where finally it takes the house off its foundation and it's running down the street with it. And then the father comes home from work, doesn't know where the house is, blah, blah, blah. Finds his house with this giant dragon. He's like, honey, there's a giant dragon in the house. And the dragon starts getting smaller the more they talk about it.
Oh.
And there's so many things in our life that are like, we don't talk about it. We don't want to say, I don't want to say nothing. I'm a terrible person. And we hold it inside. We come up with all these misconstrued, points of what we think it is. We just totally make it something usually a lot worse than what it is. But if you don't name something, if you can't find it, you can't talk about it, how are you going to ever fix it?
Yeah, that's a really good analogy.
You're never going to be able to change it. So we have to really come to this point where we find it, we speak it. And Andy and I, we did an episode 4 on vulnerability. And that was one of the biggest things that I have really come to see how important it is to be completely vulnerable and open and be able to say, here's my weaknesses. Here are the things that I suck at. Here are the things that I'm shitty at. Somebody, and as you said, somebody work with me, help me fix them.
Right.
Help me take care of them, at least name them and get to know who they are and what they are a part of me. And that's how you start. I think it just starts right there with just being precise in your speech. This is who I am. This is what I feel. This is what I want to do with it. Now, how do I do it? Then you go take the action. But if you don't name something and you can't find it, I mean, you're going to be lost.
Yeah,
forever.
You're just wandering.
The first time I got clean on my own at my parents' house, it lasted less than a month, 20-something days.
Okay.
But I just stopped. I used the kratom. I got off of it.
Yeah.
But I didn't deal with anything other than just the drug. So I stopped doing heroin for a little bit. And it's like, let's move on, everybody. Let's not talk about anything I did, not talk about how I stole from my parents, stole from my sister, stole from my girlfriend, Christine, and her kids. Like, let's not talk about any of that because I'm done. We'll just slide that under here and not talk about it. So eventually, after 3 weeks of being clean, like, okay, I'm alone, laying in bed, and what's going to pop up in my head? Oh, you're a piece of shit.
Right.
You stole from fucking 2 teenagers. You stole from your parents. You stole from this woman that you're crazy in love with and that adores you and does everything for you. Like, you just stole from these people.
Right.
And guilt and shame. Well, how do I get rid of guilt and shame right now? The only way I really know how to do it is, let's numb it and block it out with drugs. And there you go.
The other thing, too, is that everyone around you now that you've hurt is still hurting. And because you're not talking about yourself, who is perceived to be the problem, they're not talking about themselves and how they've been hurt by it. And that obviously doesn't help the relationship in any way. So, yeah, and I mean, also, it's like hard enough to like stop using heroin or any substance, really. It's even more difficult to, like, while you're going through withdrawals and all that, alone by yourself, to work on anything else other than detoxing, So that's why I really believe in, like, doing a longer than just detox, like a longer than 28-day program. Because that first, like, 15 days of it or so, depending on how bad your habit was, you're detoxing.
You're just getting over the physiological things.
Right. You're listening, hopefully, in like groups or whatever, or maybe hopefully going to them if you're not laying in your bed sick. So you're, like you said, you're doing the same thing. Like, you're getting the physical part out of the way. but you're not dealing with any of that other stuff. So you need those. I mean, maybe not everybody needs like 3 months, but I think you need a lot of self-research, self-examination. So, if you are going to just do a 28-day program, let's say, I would say make sure that you get right into AA. Like H&I really hounds on
You
the
need
idea.
accountability.
Right. And H&I, which is an NA program, they talk a lot about like once you get out, like the day you get out, go to an NA meeting and get a phone list so that you can start establishing a...
Not the next day, the day you get out.
Right, which is smart. And that's why, because you got to do more work. Like that's the beginning is, detoxing. The work comes now, that we're out of rehab and we have our own choices to make,
And you're in that rehabilitation bubble.
Yeah, which is a great place. Like you said, I went in there like hating it and like, I don't want to do this. I'm a miserable human being. At that time too, I wasn't even sure if I wanted to continue my life or rebuild it at all.
Yeah.
But then by the end, like it was like, man, I'm kind of sad to be leaving, because there's some pretty cool people. It was
kind
here.
of a bittersweet thing.
Yeah, like it's great to get on with my life, but like there's some fantastic counselors here and some pretty cool people that I've met that otherwise I would have never met. So there's definitely some positive things to be taken from doing long-term rehab.
Absolutely. I mean, I was even on reintegration where I was basically, it was like an outpatient thing. It was like a home. I could pretty much all come and go for 12 hours at Horizon Village. And even doing that, and those were probably the moments where I grew the most, when I'd go out on a pass and come back. But even then, you're still in this bubble. I still know when I go back, there's going to be a breathalyzer. There's a chance I could get randomly tox. I could get searched.
Yeah.
They're going to do all these things that I could get caught, kicked out, back in jail, blah, blah, blah. So that kind of kept me... It was still easier to be accountable. It was still easier not to use. And really, I mean, my challenges since I've been out since October 21st have been insane. And I mean, I've done good. I haven't been like super worried or anything else, but it's just, oh my gosh, I'm not in this bubble anymore.
Yeah.
Of protection of this, everything's clean. It's easy to stay clean there.
Yeah.
And I think it comes back to, like, we're talking about length. Should I go do a long-term treatment? Should I just do 28 days? Should I just do detox? I believe jail is enough for some people.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, it can happen, but it comes back to being honest with oneself. Yeah. And that is a very, very difficult thing to do.
Yeah. And
very difficult thing.
That might be more important than, like, everybody says you got to be ready. You got to be doing it for yourself, which are, true. Those things are true. But being honest with yourself, like you're not going to fix anything, no matter how much you want it. If you're not honest with yourself, you're not going to go anywhere, I don't think.
Yeah, that's the scariest thing about the psyche to me is you can swear to God on your children's lives that you are being 100% honest with yourself and you are full of shit.
Right.
And truly believe you're being honest with yourself and not know. And that always scares me because I'm like, what if I'm not ready to leave?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm ready. I can't wait to get out of here. There wasn't many times that I said that throughout. I had the few days of frustration.
Sure.
I was like, yeah, I can't wait to get the fuck out of here. But there was never me trying to rush it. And I was very good at that because I was like, I don't trust myself.
Right.
I don't know, and I can't do this. I can't put the people that love and support me right now through this again. Like, I need to make sure I get this shit done. Mm-hmm. And there's still no guarantee.
No, there's never a guarantee, which is difficult. Because, like, now that I'm an outpatient, my counselor, like, wants to meet with, my parents and just some other people that are, like, closely involved, which is great. But, she wants to talk about, like, relapse prevention. And you want to kind of like be in this world where it's like, no, that's never going to happen. I've got 5 months or whatever. I'm good. So, but I think she's very wise for wanting to
do that.
Yeah. Like contingency planning, so that's another reason why you need other people, because you're not going to think of everything.
Nope.
And some of the things you might think you're thinking of might be totally incorrect.
It's huge. It's such a team thing.
It is. And, I mean, I've been to a couple of different outpatient rehabs. like Beacon and Jacasa. And I mean, I really don't think they hold a candle to Horizon. Like, they have such a holistic program. I know there's people out there that, they pick and choose. Everybody, I think, probably has their favorite inpatient, right? Which is weird. It's like, if I'm going to do rehab, I'm doing it there. But anyway, yeah, I mean, they've got a lot of stuff that the other inpatient or outpatient, rehabs didn't even, like, touch on. And I don't know, these things, mindfulness, DBT, CBT.
They give you a lot of different pathways you can take.
Right, so you can just latch on to one. Which is
so important.
Yeah, it's huge. You need those because, maybe CBT makes sense to you, but DBT and mindfulness is what really hits home for me,
Because, again, everybody is different.
Yeah. And that goes back to the MAT thing, too. So I like that you're kind of thinking along the lines of, whatever helps people. Because we all have a tendency to be judgmental of others for some reason. It's just kind of a human trait.
We do.
I think it's because it builds connection between people. Like, if you and I can agree that X person is fucked up, me and you are more connected.
It's all about tribalism.
Right. Goes back to the old...
These guys are on my side. All right.
Right, exactly.
I mean, you see it everywhere. Everybody... Sometimes people will say something that... say they disagree with something they agree with just so they can be a part of this group.
Right. Yeah.
But I'm all about it. Kind of wrapping shit up, man. I'm all about... Let's do whatever it takes. Whatever works for me. Whatever works for you.
Yeah.
And we do that. And I mean, it's almost like it's very analogous to the journey of life. I always say we're all on our own path. We're on this path alone.
Yeah.
And I might pass you by on this path. And what helped you might not help me, but let me stop and talk with you.
Yeah.
And I can get from you whatever is that helped you helps me. And we can do that. We can swap ideas with each other. We can sit here for an hour and talk about MAT and about our recovery. But we're all going to have different ways and different things that are going to help us get to where we're going to be. So to sit there and judge somebody is unbelievable waste of time. To sit there and say you're not clean because you're on Suboxone.
Right. I mean, that's
ridiculous.
That can potentially take somebody back out. You know what I mean? Like, and even if you have good intentions for like telling them, "Oh, be careful if you get on that," because I was on it for X number of years. You don't need to tell them that.
No.
Like, they're going to figure it out.
Just because it didn't work for you doesn't mean it's not going to work for me.
Exactly. So, like, that's another thing with recovery. You really got to be careful what you say to people.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, but, we're all learning.
We are. Tis a learning process.
Tis. Tis indeed.
Well, Matthew, it's been about an hour.
All right.
It's been a pleasure.
It's been great. I've enjoyed it.
It's always a good time. We touched on some good shit.
Yeah.
So, this is the end of... I don't even know what this episode's going to be, but I'll figure that out.
It's going to be greatness.
By the time I put this on the internet. Room 9 Podcast, everybody. Subscribe on YouTube. Get on Reddit. Get on Facebook. Get on Instagram. Get on Twitter. Search Room 9 Podcast and find us. Link us up. Tell us what you got to say. Tell us how you like things. Peace out. I love each and every one of you. And Matthew, I especially love you.
Thanks, man.